Congratulations to everybody in this room.
Yeah.
We made it.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know if we've made it, but we made it to 300.
Might be the last one.
Yeah, it's been a interesting ride. The twists and turns to get where we're at now. But hey, everybody, I'm TJ Majors.
The funny part about that intro is you didn't always say your car numbers, and I forgot that. You actually said your driver's names.
Yeah, I mean, when did that switch? Because I don't even remember.
I don't either.
I think you started complaining about it. And
probably right
people
around the
get
time
point.
Dale Jr. retired.
You're like, you know what? I ain't as proud of this guy.
Valid.
I'm not as proud of Joey Logano.
22 car.
There is nothing like going from cheer to boo just by switching car numbers. So,
welcome back, TJ. It's good to see your face, and I will say this: you look good. You skinny little.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a long. Last couple weeks have been pretty long. So, had some issues health-wise to clear up, and hopefully on the mend now for good. So, glad to be back. Lighter, belt's looser. Got to fix that. So
I asked if it was contagious. You said unfortunately it's not.
It's
so
hereditary. It is hereditary, but it's not contagious.
I'm not gonna be able to catch that.
Well, I mean, it just
lose a little bit of weight.
Just don't eat. It'll be fine.
Or
It's easier said than done.
It is. It is.
Are you still Brett Griffin?
I'm still Brett Griffin.
You want to say your driver's name?
Well, I didn't know if y'all were done. I didn't spot for anybody this weekend. I did watch a lot of racing, man. What a great part of the year if you're a race fan. I mean, listen, I'm a huge sports fan. I love college football. I love college basketball. I enjoyed watching some golf yesterday. That guy won by 6 strokes. Harmon, I think, was his last name. Guy hadn't won since 2017. So, but race fans, like Freddie, if you love racing, there's no better time to be a race fan than right now.
No, I mean, obviously Freddie Kraft spotted for Bubba Wallace, Chandler Smith. Yeah, I mean, I turned on when I was getting ready to go to the track in the morning. I turned on and the F1 race is on. That's getting ready, watching that in the background. Obviously, that's another, Verstappen there. He just barely squeaked another one out by about a minute and a half, I think.
Well, I think I should move to that country. The name of the country is Hungary.
Hungary.
That's pretty much where I've lived the last month. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Let's go live to Hungary.
But here's what I did. I'm so stupid that the day before, I guess it was.
What?
Listen.
Couldn't hear you.
I'm watching. I'm flipping through the channels, and something was on. The maybe qualifying or truck race was starting. My truck, unfortunately, didn't make the show, so I wasn't in a rush to get to the racetrack for practice. And I'm flipping through the channels, waiting for the truck race to start, and there's an IndyCar race on. And I'm like, oh, cool, I'll watch this.
Oh, yeah.
And they're in Toronto. And I'm watching the race, and McLaughlin's leading, so I'm kind of into it. And then they make some, and so I'm like, oh, I got to go to the track now. I can't see how this finishes. So I don't realize that they're in Iowa, and this must have been last week's race that I was watching, and I had no idea the whole time.
So I learned that this last weekend the IndyCars qualified on Saturday morning, or I think it's Saturday morning, and they ran 2 laps. The first lap was where you started the first race on Saturday, and the second lap was where you started on Sunday. But it didn't matter because when you go to Iowa, Joseph Newgarden is untouchable there.
He wore him out.
Oh, it's not. He drove from maybe 6th or 8th on Saturday to the lead and just drove. It was a good race. I mean, those guys have their hands full there. It was actually pretty entertaining to watch. I watched a lot of racing the last couple weeks. So Formula One, I watched that race, and that was exciting for about 3 corners.
I heard you watched qualifying very closely. Maybe it was Xfinity qualifying, I think. I talked to Joey on the way down from Xfinity qualifying. He's like,
I was listening
he's
to
like,
everything.
did everybody else have somebody telling him where everybody ran? he's like, I had a lot of help from back home. He said TJ was sending me texts about, because it's hard. Like Pocono is one of the hardest places we spot. So like,
you can see in detail on the TV
that's
where
what
they're
I'm
running.
saying. Like, it's beneficial to have somebody sitting there. So he said, yeah, TJ was texting me updates about what line got, because some guys were using a little bit of the grip and moving around a little bit. So I thought that was funny.
When I saw Sheldon run up in turn 1 and just the speed he carried off the corner, and obviously it's really easy to overdrive 1, but Josh nailed his qualifying lap, and like he went into 1 maybe just under a 10th down, and when they come off of turn 2, he was a 10th and a half up by the time they got to turn 2, just because he nailed the corner. But hey, anything you can do to help, and I did watch a lot of qualifying, listen to a lot, and the crazy part about it is when you don't go to the track, you realize the access that you can get, because you can flip around to anybody on your iPad or phone or whatever and listen to what they're doing or what they're going to do. And not that you can't do that at the track, but like just the the access that you have to it. And then like Pocono, like you said, you can't see as a spotter. You can't really tell exactly where the guy runs. And when they show it on TV, you can see where that left front is compared to where the resin was or whatever was sprayed there. You can see all that stuff. And so I'm texting Joey and, notes the whole time, like, hey, this is where this guy ran. And then anything you can do to help a little bit, but there's definitely a lot of good access.
And that's why you see teams, I would say all or most of these teams now have a war room back at their shop of engineers or whatever that are just sitting in the shop, or in a room, in an office in the shop with all the SMT data in front of them, obviously, and then the race on broadcast. Like, obviously SMT is very helpful for data traces and steering and braking and throttle trace. But to see exactly where they're running, TV is the best way, especially at Pocono. TV is the best way to get that information. But
I wanted to break. So obviously the SMT and that stuff's in front of the TV a little bit. So I'm sitting there and I watched the restart of the Xfinity race, and I'm just like, oh, he's clear the bottom lane. We're good. We're good. Then we get to turn one, and I see the little car go up, and I'm like, oh, no. And then obviously about 6-7 seconds later, it comes on the TV, and I'm like, so. But, yeah, you can kind of tell what's going on before it happens on. I mean, it's obviously TV's tape. It's delayed, what? I mean, what is it, 5-7 seconds,
something like that.
But, yeah.
Not enough to beep out the word
Who said
Kyle.
Kyle Larson. It was funny.
Yeah.
By the way, Casey.
Speaking of I'm just kidding, Casey.
I don't think that was inverted.
I would like to point out
Jeez.
the way your intro to me has really fell off from the first episode.
You went from our number one pick to our substitute.
Walk on.
You're still number one in our hearts, Casey. We love you.
Thanks, guys.
I remember the day Brett texted me and asked if I knew Casey because he knew I spotted for Chad at the time, and that was, I don't know how long ago that was. That was
4 years ago.
Yeah,
Were
probably.
you spotting for Chad when he decided to rearrange the grass on the front stretch of Charlotte twice in the same weekend?
Yes,
Probably.
I was standing on the flag stand when that happened.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, that was
Was that
a
a
great
proud?
view.
Was that a proud girlfriend moment?
How much? See how high the dirt went?
I was told by Chad's best friend that I was a distraction and I was ruining his racing career that weekend. So
Are they still friends?
yes.
Wow.
Don't put this in. Are you talking about ball?
You can put it in. I don't care.
Oh, leave it in there.
I'll call him out.
Damn it, ball.
I really feel like we should get Chad on here one day because
I
I'm
really
gonna
think
just
we
say
should
that.
not.
I'm just gonna
every
say
show
that.
that goes by, I realize
I don't know
Chad-
if I could argue with ball because Chad doesn't race anymore. So.
Not by my okay.
Her mouth was wide open when you said that.
Whatever, guys.
That's why I like her being back there. I
Better
can't
be
see
glad
her.
you can't
I
see
can't
her.
see her.
You could blame his income and the fact that he flipped 15 times out of the park at one of the racetracks to his racing career. And
he was distracted.
I wasn't there for the ride.
I'm on team
Dude,
ball.
no,
I'm always,
but you-
Whatever.
I'm always on
okay,
team
okay,
ball.
It's undefeated.
well,
That was probably those. We need to talk when you get home.
Never lost a
oh
game.
God, I'm gonna flip.
Undefeated. It's like the
Thank
Bermuda
you.
Triangle.
Yes, this is
thanks,
undefeated.
guys. This is not a great start to episode 300 for me.
It is a great
Well-
start. Casey, we love you. You do a great job when you show up on time. And
Says the guy who barely shows up at all.
oh, I know. I don't have anything else going on.
I had at least legit reasons, right?
And I show up on time pretty much every time. You have nothing going on?
pretty much every time.
Yes, I was actually early today.
You were. I will say this is the first. Now you're going to be late for the next 5 because you came early once.
and
like
you
gotta.
have, if you would show up, Brett, you would see that I've been on time. So
Wow, that's good to know.
She's like low on sleep or something,
I
right?
am low on sleep, guys.
Finish
Don't
that
ask me.
donut.
I will. I will. All right. Well, how was Pocono? For
Love to
those
tell
of
you.
you-
I don't know.
Freddie's the only one that
Freddie,
knows.
Freddie, how was Pocono from an at-track standpoint?
What town did you stay in?
I stayed in Wilkes-Barre.
Oh,
Good hour. Good hour drive there. See any bears?
It was. I driving yesterday, leaving the racetrack, and Nick Payne is riding with me, and I'm just
Hopefully he wasn't
hauling ass
spotting.
down some back road. Thank God he was spotting because I'm hauling ass down some back road, and there's a car over here on my left. So I'm looking at the car, and Nick, it's broad daylight out. It's like, I don't know, 6:30, 7 o'clock maybe. And Nick's like, hey, watch that deer. Watch that deer. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I look, and there is a deer just standing in the road. Like, just, all right, just going to hang out. And, like, he's, like, not in the road. He's, like, just off on the shoulder a little bit. And I'm running, like, 70 mile an hour. So I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I'm fucked if this thing just decides like I'm going to take 4 steps to the left. It's game over for me and Nick.
Yeah.
So no bears. I did see a deer. I did see some bear carvings. The guy's not there anymore. You know the guy,
woodworking guy.
Yeah, he's not there anymore. The one at the end of the Sleepy Hollow or whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's not there no more. But
So there's no like, oh, that's all gone now.
yeah. I'm assuming he's somewhere else. But that wood carving there is. But I mean, phenomenal. I use that word a lot on here. But phenomenal crowd. I could tell, and we always talk about this. Brett always talks about it on here. Like, you can kind of tell what the attendance is going to be for the weekend by the amount of campers that are at the racetrack. And the infield was packed full of campers. The outside was obviously, there was a lot of campers. Yeah. But it's been years. I've been doing cup racing for 10 years. I can't remember a time in that 10 years when I seen the infield as packed as it was the other day. And then we follow that up with the grandstands on Sunday were jam-packed. There was a bunch of people in that new area they made where they knocked the building down, which I didn't like. But there was a bunch of great viewing spots for there. Where the Victor Lane is, people can get right up next to it. So, I mean, it was phenomenal as far as just the atmosphere, the crowd, traffic.
That
not
sounds
great.
cool for Victory Lane that the fans that have access to that area.
Yeah, I mean they're right. They can all walk right up to it. I mean you're literally from here to that wall away from Victory Lane, and drive the car's going to drive by you, come park it in there.
Yeah, that's cool.
And obviously we seen complaints about traffic. Traffic wasn't great. It wasn't horrendous. Listen,
it's never been great.
They don't have a choice. Like the way we went in yesterday. It's like a 45 minute drive from my hotel. I left at 10 o'clock in the morning. It took me probably an hour and 15 minutes.
That's not bad.
It's not terrible. I took 115 in, which is the main road right in front of the racetrack.
Yep.
Every lane up into the tunnel road was going in the same direction, so there was no way out. So there wasn't even holding up lanes. And it gets clogged up around the racetrack. But I mean, it is what it is. When you've got a big crowd like that, I mean, I don't know how many people were there. I don't know what the grandstands hold. Maybe 40,000, something like that. So that's just that. And then you got all the people in the infield. So, listen, you're going to a major event. I've seen people said, I was stuck in traffic for the beginning of the race. Well, if you're leaving that close to the race, that's your fault. Like, there's no way it took hours to get in there. Maybe when it got close to the race and, it's piling in a little bit, but you need to do a better job of planning if you're going to an event like that.
All right, listen, I've been going to Pocono since '99, and when it had 2 races back then, like it was kind of cool, but it was a month apart. So the second race didn't have the buzz that the first race had because, again, you were just there 3 weeks prior, right? So to see that place go to one race and really blow it out was quite the spectacular thing to follow all weekend on social media. I mean, they had an amazing concert Saturday night. It looked like freaking 5,000 people were at that thing. And to know what that family puts into that racetrack, listen, there's only really 2 racetracks left that isn't owned by NASCAR or SMI that we race at. And obviously Pocono is one of them. So to be, quote, an independent, and at some point they're probably going to get bought up and consolidated into the other portfolio. But for NASCAR to keep going there and for those guys to pull off what they did this weekend, congrats to them. It's the prettiest tunnel, without a doubt, that we see in our sport. I love driving into that tunnel. Second to the Daytona 500, driving through that tunnel for that race. I don't know, man. They've done a lot of upgrades. It was a dump 10 years ago. I mean, yeah. If I'm being honest with you, it was a dump. Now it's not. I would love to see them go in and redo their suites because their corporate hospitality stuff certainly needs updated. But they're step by step, man. They're making it better. So good for them.
And it showed this week. And to your point, like, you see that crowd, and that lends itself to the one race per track, like we've talked about. Like, it seems like everywhere we go that has lost a second date or only has one date, that the crowd is substantially better than it had been in the past.
And they knocked 100 miles off of it, and I'm for that too.
Yeah,
I know people were fussing at us like a couple weeks ago when we said we can shorten some of these races and make them better. Well, guess what happened yesterday? We had a freaking phenomenal 400-mile race.
Yeah, you cut 40 laps off of it.
So that race, like, what you got to look at that race, though, is they're not going to be side by side the whole time. But that place is unique because it's big enough where the pit strategy thing comes into play, and fuel mileage there always comes into a factor. And we've had many surprise winners and many race wins by guys that you didn't see up in the front until late in the race because they came down and topped off or made it a little bit further on fuel and did some stuff the first 2/3 of the race to set themselves up for the end. And There were some guys that actually got some good finishes yesterday that did that. And Tyler Reddick had a shot at winning, and he was kind of on that strategy.
He for sure had a shot at winning.
Harrison Burton top 10. Eric Jones did that.
Todd Gilliland 15th.
Yeah, even Ricky. Those guys were like in the 20s, like around 20th, or worse than that most of the day. And then, bam, here they are.
And I think, and this is a place where we talked about it on here before with different types of racetracks. This is a place that would probably help itself by getting rid of stage cautions, because you plan your race around planned cautions now, to where the strategy is one or the other. You know what I mean? Like, so there's no, there were some guys yesterday you saw you can play it like Pocono. We say you can play it like a road course because it's hard to lose a lap on pit road if you're within, I think it was about 12 seconds of the leader. So. And then especially if it's a green flag cycle, you can short pit it and try to stretch it and try to catch a caution, hopefully stay on the lead lap and cycle back to the race lead or whatnot. But, I just think this is another place where it opens up that box of strategies if you take out the two planned cautions. I mean, obviously,
I don't know. I feel like the stage breaks there make that strategy, because
Yeah.
you have to pit and you can either run long.
But what's the difference between that and road courses? We've begged on here forever to get them rid of them on road courses. Now, why we want to leave them here?
Here's the answer. Here's the answer for us true racers that love racing. If it's 1.5 miles and under, we'll accept your stage break. If it's over 1.5 miles, don't stop the race. Keep the race going, pay the points, keep it green. That's me.
I think there's just more opportunity for, like, road courses. There's more opportunity. They get so spread out there, and there's more opportunity. There's more corners, so there's more wrecks. That's the way I look at it.
I also think, looking at it too, you see drivers such as William Byron and Martin Truex Jr. who are going for the season championship. I mean, you see them going for a different strategy now than they would have if they're trying to go for a win, and what I get how that strategy has changed.
But they didn't. That's my point. Like Martin stayed. Like the guys that are chasing points. Like there wasn't a lot of difference yesterday. If Martin's truly just chasing race wins, then he would pit, but now he's got to chase points at the same time. I don't know. It's just like we begged for years to get rid of this on road courses, and they did, and I think it made it better. It's the same thing, and you're gonna have differing strategies. Yesterday, the 48 car was willing to pit basically as soon as his window opened, and it helped him a lot. We tried the same thing. Our car wasn't fast enough to maintain it. Other guys, Reddick ran as long as he could and then was in great position. You're going to see them same differing strategies in that last stage, because there's no point. Like if that last stage is a full, you got a pit cycle in there. So, you're already seeing different strategies in that window when there's no points on the line. Just play it out. Like, let it play out naturally. Let teams make decisions based on their race, not that, all right, I know I've got a caution here at lap 30. I know I've got a caution coming at lap 95.
I don't know. I like the stage racer. I think it puts the pressures on the teams to.
So then you want to go back to them at road courses?
I mean, if they're not going to wreck, yeah.
2 polls I want to reference real quick before we dive into this thing. 82% of people on Jeff Gluck's poll said yesterday was a good race. I agree, it was a great race. Yeah. I sent a poll out that I want to hear you guys' feedback on. 6,000 people voted, and I said, do you care about the regular season championship battle? And 62% of fans said no.
And I think that's I don't want to call
it doesn't
out
do
race
anything
fans.
for the fan.
That's just not being informed enough about how important that regular season championship is, I think, because it's a big deal.
Do you care? Do they not care because their favorite driver isn't in the mix?
Probably.
Yeah,
I mean, but I truly think they don't care. I think that they just think it's an afterthought when really it's not. I don't think enough emphasis is placed on it from a media standpoint. You know what I mean? Like we talk about, so-and-so's leading the regulars. That's a big deal. That's a 5-point difference, right, from first to second.
Yes.
That's a big deal. That's 5 positions on the racetrack when it comes to a race in the playoffs. And it breaks down. I forget what the breakdown is, but it's like 5. Is it 5 again from second to third?
No, it's 15 points to first,
10.
and then second points gets 10, third points gets 9, third place gets 9.
Okay.
Then it's 1 point on the flip down. But listen, we spend time on here talking about it because we know how important it is.
It's huge, man.
And we know that Martin Truex or William Byron at this point appear that one of them is going to get 5 more playoff points. That is massive. Like if our fans truly don't care about it, we're doing something wrong as a sport because this thing is super important. I mean, it's not home field advantage in the NFL playoffs, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievably important.
It's a buffer.
So
Yeah.
on that note, I can't remember who submitted this question, but we've obviously been in this playoffs format for quite a few years now. Knowing what it used to look like, knowing what the championship used to look like, what do you guys think? I mean,
I will always say, from a fan perspective, this is the best format we've ever had. From a true racer that I've grown up being a racer my whole life, my dad was a racer, I would rather see a season-long, and I don't care if the guy wraps it up with 5 races left, you are the season-long champion. Matt Kenseth kind of ruined that by just being ultra consistent one year and not winning a race and kicking everybody's. I think he didn't win a race and still had wrapped it up before we got to the final race. Obviously, that's not exciting. So
But
what we're
I'm going to play a rebuttal on I don't disagree with you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. When you're saying Phoenix is going to be so exciting because we're going to have 4 guys going for the championship. Well, our TV ratings sure don't scream that they're super exciting.
And I don't know that doesn't have a lot to do with where we're having that race at, because Jamie McMurray came on this podcast and said we haven't had a good race at Phoenix since 1989. So I just always
So if that same championship, and I'm gonna throw out something crazy, let's say it's at Daytona, you think our ratings are higher? We start the season Daytona 500, biggest ratings of the year.
Maybe you want to throw up already.
Will the second biggest ratings of the year be the Daytona season finale if we're there?
Yes, I think so.
Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about being in that Final Four.
No.
It's
There's no
bad.
way.
It's been bad enough. And
I think
Your stomach's already upset. We don't need to
I-
make it
yeah,
worse.
we don't need to make you any worse.
I've been part of the Final Four of Phoenix and Homestead. I mean, you're still like, I can tell you this though: when you go to Phoenix, you know what you kind of have right in the beginning. You know how hard it's going to be, but at Homestead, you don't really. Man, there's so many ups and downs in that race, and I don't feel like
The point is,
Phoenix,
TJ, that people don't care there's a regular season championship,
Yeah.
and the average quote fan, they don't tune in for Phoenix. I don't think.
to your point about Daytona, you have that race at Martinsville. It's the same thing. I think Martinsville maybe more
Yeah.
so because Daytona they're not going to. I mean, they're going to wreck, but they're not going to wreck each other. It's unlikely somebody's going to go in the corner and just run somebody over at Daytona. Martinsville, these guys could be fist fighting. I think that place or just go ahead and hold it
still
wide
think-
open on the wall.
Still think the best thing was
speaking of
Homestead.
fist fighting, boy,
Yeah,
we had some guys fired up
There were some
yesterday.
mad sons of bitches.
I
out
don't
there.
ever recall a race at Pocono leaving with this many people mad at each other. It's like we were at a Martinsville or a plate race.
And it was across all the series. I saw Hocevar. He didn't make himself any friends on.
Hocevar's
Saturday.
here a week from today.
A week from today. Yeah, we'll have to ask him about that. And listen, I think Carson
Maybe he'll bring out a caution. at
Carson
Richmond again.
obviously has, I think, in my opinion, and it's part of the reason I think why he's coming on here, has taken a major step in maturity, and I think he's doing a much better job. And I think that Saturday he made a pretty big mistake, and
That's okay. That's
yeah,
racing.
and that's the thing. You have to, when you start. The problem is, it gets less and less accepted the further up the ladder you go.
Yes.
And I've.
What did
heard-
he say after it? I didn't see it.
I mean, I think he basically owned it afterwards. I didn't see the interview. I seen him and Parker were getting into it a little bit, but just as you go up this ladder, you can't make these mistakes. And I heard some rumors this week that Carson may be skipping a step on the ladder coming up next year. But if you're at that level, this
Did his
can't
future
happen.
car get into a wreck?
This can't happen if you're at this level. So, I get it. He's doing all the right things. He's saying a lot of the right things. Ever since he got that Cup opportunity at Gateway, he's come out and said a lot of right things and has done a good job on the racetrack. And it's hard. It's hard to turn that off. You know what I mean? Like if he's a super aggressive driver, good kid. I don't think that he has any malicious intent when he makes these mistakes. I just think he's just tunnel vision going for it at the time, and this is something another learning moment from him where he's just got to realize. And it sounded to me like from people's reaction. I talked to Parker yesterday in the garage. like he said, well, he knows he screwed up. He knows that it wasn't like, he's out to go screw yourself or whatever. He knows he made a mistake, and it's just another step in having to do better next time.
Well, it'll be fun next week to have him on. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, we've been really tough on him in certain situations. We've praised him when praise was due. Shows a lot of balls to walk in here and get on this show because we're going to let it all hang out.
He races a lot of things, from super late models to, trucks to cup cars. I mean, he runs a...
You see him on Wednesday. If you ever want to meet him, he's at Millbridge.
Oh, God.
There it
Let's
is.
start the show.
Drink.
Jeez.
All right, let's move on to Spot On, Spot Off, presented by Moneyline.
Man, speaking of Moneyline, Freddie, I know you've heard of Moneyline. They're a sponsor over there at 2311. We appreciate them jumping on board and sponsoring one of my favorite segments of the show, Spot On, Spot Off. All I know, man, is they want to hook our fans, DBC listeners, up with free money.
Yeah, like you said, I've met these guys multiple times at the racetrack, guys and gals, I should say, multiple times at the racetrack. And obviously, besides being a partner of ours here at DBC, they are the official digital finance partner at my other job. I used to call it my day job, but I think we got some night races coming up in Daytona.
Yeah.
2311 Racing. The Moneyline app is designed to help you take control of your money. You can borrow, save, invest, and earn money all in the same place, TJ.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that I appreciate how much they try to get our listeners free money. You like free money, Brett?
I love free money.
Who doesn't like free
Yeah,
money?
I mean, free money. So just download the Moneyline mobile finance app today. Use promo code $DirtyMo and set up direct deposit, and you can get up to $55 on them.
And I will gladly take that money. So don't forget, use promo code $DirtyMo and earn up to $55. And now on to our first topic. Justin Haley announces he will move to Rick Ware Racing for a multi-year deal starting in 2024. Spot on, spot off, Brett.
Well, I will have to say it takes a lot to surprise me around here. And when I opened up social media that morning and I glanced through it, and the next thing you know, I start getting screenshots from folks like my good friend Freddie Kraft. And my first instinct that I had was, what the f***? Like, I legitimately said to myself, what the f***? Like, this can't be real, right? So then I sat there for a minute, and obviously Justin is a friend of mine. Justin is somebody I really enjoy talking to. He's somebody I got to know as a result of spotting for him full-time last year in the Cup Series. And so, man, I just sat there for a minute, and I'm thinking back to conversations that he and I had over the summertime. Hadn't really spoke to him a lot in person since North Wilkesboro because I haven't been at the track. But I'm sitting there, man, and I'm just trying to make sense of all of it. And so I get off my Justin, kind of emotional ride that I'm on, and I go, okay, what is Rick Ware thinking? And my response is, this is the smartest thing they've ever done in their company's existence. They have gone from having, and nothing against these guys, Josh Bilicki and Cody Ware driving their cars, to Ryan Newman and Cole Custer. Big upgrades. And then I look at, and listen, we sat here on this show, or I sat here on this show, and I said, and I pounded the table going, if you're the slowest car in the garage week in and week out, you should lose your charter. And right now, the last three cars every single week are the 15, 51, and 78. And I said, if you're not doing anything to make that better, you don't deserve to own a charter. Well, guess who's doing something about it? Rick Ware. They've gone out. They hired Robbie Benton. They hired Tommy Baldwin. They're hiring Justin Haley. Wow. Talk about a rebrand. They don't make the PR blunders they were making. Remember that whole Jennifer Jo Cobb announcement thing where they announced she's running Cup and NASCAR said, oh, not so fast. That's a PR blunder. They're not doing that anymore. So Rick Ware Racing appears on the front of the page here to really be making a major attempt to make their program better, make their cars faster. How do you do that? Well, you go out and you hire a guy with Justin Haley's experience, obviously a good road racer, a great drafter, a good little short track racer, and I think it's a big hire for them. So then I go back and I'm thinking, Justin, what the are you thinking? So the good news is I had an opportunity to speak to him, and he told me what the he was thinking. And what the he's thinking is, and I've been a part of these scenarios too, he's been sold on a bill of goods that tells him that Rick Ware Racing is going to do everything that they can to make their cars better and make their cars faster. And I was a part of situations like this that came true, right? And I was a part of situations like this where it didn't come true. Harry Scott, oh my God. Worst year of my life was spotting for Harry Scott Motorsports. Not because of the people, because all the promises that were made about how they were going to update their equipment when Justin Allgaier left, none of those promises were fulfilled. So when I'm talking to Justin, and he keeps reiterating to me that, and he said this publicly, otherwise I wouldn't speak to it, Steve Newmark, Brad Keselowski, and Rick Ware and Robbie Benton had meetings with Justin, and he believes a lot in the alliance that is going to happen with Keselowski and Roush Fenway, right? So the question now becomes, we know the future. We know the future for Justin Haley. I now understand why. My WTF moment is over. We know that this is a win for Rick Ware Racing. The question now becomes, and when we're sitting here 6 races into next year, is Brad Keselowski, Steve Newmark, or Roush Fenway really going to do all the things they said they're going to do to help Rick Ware Racing? Is Rick Ware Racing really going to do all the things that it takes to get that help? Because, and I know I'm rambling, it takes money. It takes people. And if I am Rick Ware Racing, I know that I can get better people to come and work on my race cars if I have Ryan Newman driving them and Justin Haley driving them versus Cody Ware.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% spot off. And I'm spot off for all the idiots on Twitter and social media talking about Justin downgrading, essentially. Because, for one, you don't know what his other options are. You know, I understand maybe the 51 is a step back from the 31. But if, in my mind, Justin already knows he's not going to be back in the 31 at this point when he makes this deal. You know, I know that Chris had come out and said, like, you know, we want Justin back. I'm sure they wanted Justin back on their terms. Maybe those terms aren't great for Justin, you know. So, you know, when you see people, they said they want him back. Well, yes, they might have wanted him back, but they might not have offered him the best deal possible. And Justin, you know, Chris came out the other day and said it's a business decision. Justin's in the same business. He's got to make a business decision for himself. You know, well, like you said, we both talked to Justin. You know, he is pretty big on the Roush, you know, side of this thing, Roush, the RFK side. And listen, right now, if you look, somebody, I keep getting tagged in it. Somebody does a list of the teams, ranking the teams as their, you know, the average of their team's total points. You know, that they had whatever teams they got in the underhouse and under their roof, and they, you know, add them all together, average them. And Roush, the RFK is like 3rd or 4th in that list. They are one of the only teams with all their cars in the playoffs right now. You know, if you look, I've seen people say, well, you know, what's a alliance with them going to do? Because, you know, it's just another Ford team that's not running great. Well, who would you like to be aligned with right now? Roush Fenway or Stewart-Haas Racing? You know what I mean? The 6 and the 17 have shown a lot more speed lately than any of the Stewart-Haas cars except for maybe the 4. So, like, it's everything to your point. You know, Justin's making a decision for himself. He is banking on the fact that they're going to give him everything they promised, you know. And I just think that there's at the end of the day, if the 31 is off the table for you, what's your other options? You know, we've talked about the 10. You know, you keep hearing the same names: Michael McDowell, Zane Smith over there. You know, if one of those,
I don't think either one of them's going to the 10.
All right, that's fine. But you know, what else is left? If one of them leaves, maybe that opens up a seat at you know, front row. If front row, you know, are they going to go away from Todd Gilliland to get Justin Haley? I don't know. You know, it's just so that the options left on the table are looking at like the 51 and the 77 maybe. And, you know, if Roush Fenway's involved, Roush Fenway Keselowski's involved with the 51 and the 77's just kind of still doing what they're doing, that looks way more attractive. And then multi-year offer on top of that. This guy's racing for a living. You know, there's just a lot of things that Justin's making a business decision for himself. And like you said, he's basing it off of what he's being sold on from these two companies, and hopefully it works out for him.
Yeah, I'm really spot on. I think this is a big step for them. I've seen, you know, I've preached it for a while now. I've seen the small improvements that they've been making over the months, and you know, their cars are more competitive now than I feel like they've ever been. You know, and you like, if you get back there in the soup, they're there racing. You know, it's not like, oh, we're lap. You know, I mean, there are weekends where they have their moments or whatever, but Robbie and Tommy and them guys have done a phenomenal job of keep upgrading that place. What's the next step? What's the next step? And now, bringing in the drivers that they are, like Justin's a promising young driver. He's got the ceiling's pretty high for him. You bring him in there, and if you look at and I know they do talk about it on TV quite a bit, but from when I walked into that shop, from when Brad took it over to now, night and day difference. I mean, it's a young, growing, looks like a small Penske shop now. Brad's transformed that whole place, and if you bet against Brad, you're an idiot. So Brad's very successful businessman. He knows what he's doing, and and him even being a part of it, I don't know why. Brad's one of the guys that if he tells you, hey, you should do this, you should probably do it. He's really smart like that, almost too smart for his own good sometimes. But he's just one of them guys, man. And because he was groomed from that type of, like, who else is it? I mean, where'd he come from? The guy that hired him for, to race in the Cup Series. If Roger Penske told you to go to the store and buy number 2 pencils, you're probably leaving here and going to buy number 2 pencils.
As many as I can find.
Exactly. So, and Brad's very similar to that. So I think it's a big move for Justin, and it's a huge move for Rick Ware and them guys. It puts them, to me, this puts them on the map even more, and to get a guy like Justin, too, is good.
It's only going to make them better. We talk about on here the difference in drivers and getting good drivers in your equipment. I'm not trying to knock anybody, but Cody Ware and Josh Bilicki are not going to make your program better. When you get Ryan Newman in there, who knows what it's like to drive a good race car, he can come back and tell you all the stuff that's wrong with your racing, everything, not even the car, just team, whatever, all aspects of it. He can tell you what's wrong with it. Justin Haley's now been a part of Colleague Racing for multiple years. He knows that atmosphere. He can bring that over there. You start getting guys, and listen, Justin, the only thing I was going to give Justin I was like, he said, like, they've been impressive this year. Listen, they have not been impressive. They have been more competitive. I will give them that. They've maybe jumped from a 35th place car every week to a 30th place car in running order. And there's weeks Cole Custer was running around the top 20 at Loudon. So there's weeks they can hit on it. But
how hard it is to go.
The biggest thing is they are improving. It used to be we would lap these 2 cars they'd be the first 2 we'd get to, and we'd lap them 5-6 times a race, at least. So, like, you see the improvement. The improvement maybe in the finishes isn't there yet because it's a big jump to go. If you try to just look at any team in the sport and try to jump them 5 positions and see who they're going to try to jump over. You look right now, the guys are running, if they're a 30th place team, the guys running 25th are the Stewart-Haas cars. Are you expecting Rick Ware to jump over Ryan Preece and Chase Briscoe? That's the jump you're looking at making. So they're getting more competitive. They're doing the right things. And to your point, like if they put better drivers in their car, it's only going to elevate their program because these guys are going to be able to come in and tell them all the stuff that is wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
Here's
about
your
Brad.
inspiration. Here's your inspiration, and it's 2 words: Corey LaJoie. That 7 Spire team, they were bad. And now, man, the guy qualifies top 10 every now and he runs top 10 some. I mean, to your point, Freddie, Corey LaJoie outruns a lot of damn teams with bigger names and bigger freaking budgets, right? I've always said faster race cars make you a faster race car driver. But if in this situation, how do you find out if you're Rick Ware Racing, if you're actually any good and where you need to get better? And this is freaking screaming at the church, but screaming to the choir. But you hired Cole Custer, who has won in a lot of series. You hired all 3 series, to speak in fact. Ryan Newman, Daytona 500 champion, freaking Rocket Ryan, right? I mean, and now you've gone out and hired Justin Haley, who has 3 truck wins, 4 Xfinity wins, 1 Cup win, is a very competitive guy. Now you can't blame the driver anymore. Now you can't say, well, Cody ain't that good or Josh ain't that good. Well, now you got good guys. Go make your program better. It'll be interesting to see, and it won't take us long. We'll know a few months in the next year how real is this alliance, right? Because to your point, there were a lot of times yesterday where both Busher and Brad were running top 10, top 11. How real is this alliance? Because we're going to know right off the bat. And if they're a second and a half off at qualifying when we get to a Pocono next year or we get to a Michigan, it means the alliance was all BS and Justin was sold a bad bill of goods. So I hope it's real. I hope it works out for all these parties because, again, I like Justin. I like what Rick Ware's doing, and it's going to be important to the growth of the sport to have these bottom charters actually not be so irrelevant and so slow.
Yeah, and obviously the other side of this opens up the 31 car. And as obviously you see on social media this week, Austin Hill's kind of a rumored guy to be over there. Somebody's coming from the Xfinity Series to take this ride, I feel like. And that's going to open up another chain. I've heard a lot of stuff in the Xfinity Series this week about some driver movement. If Austin Hill leaves, that's going to leave the 21 open. I've heard potentially somebody – I don't know if I want to go into details. Somebody going back to JGR that used to be there in the Xfinity side. So
JRM shuffling. There's a lot of stuff.
Maybe some driver change. Obviously, the 8 cars already open over there. Maybe another opening coming over there. Maybe guys going from JR. There's a lot of shuffling going on in that Xfinity Series that should shake things up pretty big for next year.
Somebody made one comment to me this week that I thought was kind of funny because we saw a lot of tweets from people saying this is a career-ending move for Justin Haley. Let me tell you what a career-ending move is. That Justin sits on his hands and hopes that something better comes along and finds out in October or November that he's not going to be back in the 31 and he doesn't have a job. That's a career-ending move.
Somebody texted me and Brett that, that's a career-ending move. I said, well, not for the next couple of years because he's got a deal. He's got a multi-year deal.
That's more than a lot of guys right now.
Yeah, a lot.
Just so you know.
As far as I know, Bubba's only got 1 year left. I don't know if he's got an option for the 3rd year, but you know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of guys that have a multi-year deal, that are going to be racing the Cup Series. They know for a fact in 24 and 25.
Like what I was going to say is, like, I'm telling you, if you look at last year at this point and compare to like where our cars are right now compared to where they were last year, we've taken a step. We've taken so many big steps, and it's because I know the guy that drives and his name's on the place that he's already there Monday morning. He's there 4 days out of the week, and because he's doing what he needs to do. So I don't know anybody more committed than Brad, and obviously Brad's one of the better drivers. I think Brad's one of the smartest race car drivers out there. So I mean, I don't blame. I think this is a great, like you said, we don't know what's going on with Justin, what his options are. So if someone comes to him and says, "Hey, this is the alliance we're getting even better and better. We got even more bigger plans. This is what we got. We would like to sign you for 2-3 years." I don't know what his deal is, but I mean that's. Well, how do you not do it for him? So we don't know if there might not be anything else.
That might have been his only option.
Well, and the fact that Brad has been on Justin's side too, like being a driver and having to fight for your ride, having to fight for what's next. I think.
Listen, people haven't talked about this, and I don't know how much Brad publicly will speak to this, Casey, to your point, but Brad races with this guy every single week.
Right.
So he has a major opinion formed about whether or not he thinks Justin Haley is worth forming an alliance with. The last thing that Roush Fenway would want to do is form an alliance with somebody that doesn't provide value to them as a race team.
It helps us, too.
And value is two things. Obviously, there's the money side of it, which has to happen. We're all in business. The other side of it is, what is Justin going to do to contribute in these meetings and behind the seat of the wheel? So for Brad to have that confidence to be forming this alliance, that's the other side of this that not a lot of people are talking about.
And a lot of times you see a team like RFK use their alliance partners to try stuff. Well, you're not going to – I mean, I don't want to keep harping on this, but, like, if you have something that you were trying to R&D, you're not going to give it to Cody Ware or you're not going to give it to Josh Bilicki. You can give it to Justin Haley. You can – we got this car ready. We got this trick thing that we want to try out, see if it works. We're going to put it in your car. You're not going to do that with the guys they've had in that car. No. Now this is something you might try.
Yes.
All right, well, back to some topics on Pocono. Josh Berry chalks it up to hard racing after Austin Hill stole the victory after a JRM-dominated race. TJ, spot on, spot off.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, really? Okay. I'm spot off. I was pulling so hard for Josh, and he did everything. They had a great car. They did everything all day. Taylor called the right strategy. I think it was going to win. I mean, I'm sitting there doing math in the room that I was stuck in. I'm sitting there doing math, trying to figure out if they're going to catch, and I think they were going to catch him. You can usually a lot of times, I don't know if you can visibly see the speed difference and you can kind of judge it yourself. But I was doing the math, and I think Josh was going to catch the guys that were saving fuel and trying to stretch it. But great race. I think Austin Hill is a superb Xfinity driver, and he knows what to do. And he gave Josh a great push on the restart. They both cleared the bottom lane, which is maybe not what you want being in Josh's shoes. You just want to clear him and let them race. But listening on the radio, Josh was talking about he wanted Austin behind him because he knew Austin was a good pusher. Well, Austin got him in turn one probably a lot faster than he had gotten there all day on restarts, so I think that probably caught him off guard. Austin did follow him kind of close down into the corner, and but I don't think he if Austin's probably good enough to send him there at the right spot, just enough to get him a little bit loose to get beside him. So that's kind of what happened. Was pulling hard for them guys, and it just didn't work out. But good news is I think we got a lot of good tracks coming up where I still feel like we got a good point buffer, and if we got to point our way in, fine. It's not until about right now where you want to start hitting your stride for the playoffs anyway. I feel like if you're strong in the beginning part of the year, a lot of times it's hard to carry that the whole season. So,
do you think Josh Berry, listen, no wins this deep into the season and one of the best teams in the garage. Do you think he was trying too hard?
I don't know if he was trying too hard there. I just think it was a situation.
He choked. He to bed.
I think it was a situation that he hadn't been put in yet that race. And I think there's a lot of restarts there, and you go in there, and when you go in there 7 mile an hour faster than what you had been going all day because you got a good pusher behind you for once, it's different. So, but it's okay because the stronger, his confidence has, probably been down a little bit because we haven't been getting the finishes that we should have been getting. And to be strong at Loudon for a while and to be strong at Pocono, that shows you the potential is showing. And, I think Taylor and them are getting better as the season goes on here too. So I'm okay with how things are going. I think the momentum is building for the right time. If we can go off, you can't tell me that Josh isn't going to go to his name's in the hat for winning almost every week now. I think he could go. If I told you Josh wins the next 2 out of the next 3 races, would you be really surprised?
Yeah.
Or would you be like, okay, that's possible?
I bet you he don't win 2 out of the next 3.
I'm just saying it's not. It's doable. Like, it wouldn't be far-fetched.
How many races – and listen, I love Junior Motorsports. If not for Junior Motorsports, we wouldn't have this podcast. Had I not walked in the door with Elliott Sadler, One Main Financial, One Main sponsor, DBC back in the day, I wouldn't be here. So this is not a shot at the organization at all. They're giving away races left and right this year.
Oh, we've given away – if you look at here, we had a shot at winning Daytona. We know We know how that ended. We were going to win Richmond. We were leading Richmond until the 51 car parks on pit road, and then Freddie's guy decides that 12 stick better than 4, and
so it's Freddie's
That's
fault.
not true.
I know. But
I just look at it in general as the 7 car was the fastest car in the race from where I was watching. I didn't have all the – I can imagine TJ sitting in a room like he's in an asylum with all this technology just completely geeked out, like he's on full-blown. I am sitting there by myself with a beer in my hand watching on TV.
I definitely have 3 devices and stuff going at one
to me,
time,
the 7 looked like he was a rocket. Like, how do you lose this race? Well, holy cow, let me tell you how you lose this race. They managed to screw that up time after time after time again. But Junior Motorsports in general has given away 5 wins this year. 4 or 5?
Probably at least.
They got to fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing TJ said. One key moment I think was obviously he pushes the 21 pushes the 8 down into turn 1, gets him free, gets around him. Josh did a really good job getting back to him, getting into 1, kind of packing a little bit of air, and getting back up next to him. And I think there was just this one moment late in turn 1 where it just gets a little bit free, steps out on him, and he has to chase it up into the 21, and that just killed all of his momentum for the back straightaway. You've seen him try to get away from him, but by that point the 21's already clear, and the 1's come in. They make contact, and I'm assuming the contact with the 1 cut the right front tire. But if he just doesn't get that little bit loose underneath the 21 off of 1, they have a hell of a race down that long pond. But that once he made contact there and was a little bit free, it just killed all of his momentum, and unfortunately couldn't close the deal out. But
yeah, and Sam had such a good run. I really don't blame Sam for trying to make a move there when it was initially happening. You're like, okay, well, Sam's coming up behind him. Sam's going to probably push Josh back because it's pretty hard to pass 2 cars like that on the backstretch, and Sam had such a good run. He was going to the outside. When they hit, they both kind of met in the middle, and that's what cut Josh's right front. But
and Sam's got to be a guy, and I don't.
Sam had a phenomenal race, by the way.
He's got to be a guy that's feeling the heat, right? He's been there 2 years. He's not won a race.
He's had speed
this
at
year.
He's not really been in contention to win.
The other cars are, and he's not. He was this weekend, but he's got to be a guy that he feels the heat turning up on his butt.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, JRM led 71 of the 92 laps, so
and lost.
Yeah, unfortunate, but at least they're in the running. Moving on to Sunday. Moving on to Sunday, Joey Logano says it would be an easy fix to have spare tires accessible for cars that have flatted on the track. He thinks that, flatted, is that a word?
Flattened.
That's pretty funny.
Andrew?
No, you're not.
Oh, it's Andrew's fault. You read a word that
Is
doesn't
that
exist.
flatted?
Do not-
like flat tire.
Do not cut that
What?
out.
Exactly.
Regardless, here's what happened, Casey.
Okay,
Joey Logano had he had fat
This
tires.
is what you did. I
Hold
blame
on.
you.
So-
I blame you.
So like when you bike, you say you flatted. Like if you had a flat
Why
tire.
am I trusting
So
the
We're
guy
a
that
lot of
put
bikers.
diesel
We're
in his
bikers.
car?
Sorry.
My
That was
idea of
just the
biking has
terminology
a
that
Harley
I-
Davidson.
Have flattened on the track. He thinks that would be better than dragging the car
This
on the
doesn't
track
matter.
for 2 miles.
Casey,
to
this
get back on
doesn't
pit
listen to
road.
me. This doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All that matters is Joey Logano's rant when they
Yeah.
got there to pick him
Hold
up.
on a second.
I'll take that one.
I don't.
Yeah.
Don't take it out.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, that's
You
probably
are
an
crazy.
accurate
This is
statement.
probably crazy. Is this not the dumbest thing you've ever heard of?
Completely the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Like,
You wrecked. You have 4 flat tires, but NASCAR should give you 4 really good
have
tires
you-
to drive back.
Have you ever seen how long it takes a trained pit crew to get the car off the ground on pit road to get the tires changed? Now, what are we going to do? Have 4 tow truck drivers out there trying to do it?
On the banking.
Oh, yeah, on the
banking.
like
Jack it up on the banking. That's it.
And then what if there's 3 guys out there? We gotta have 3 trucks go out. Maybe we should drive by your pit stall, pick up your pit crew, bring them out there with you. Like, I get it. Yes, that would make your life a
you
lot
know how to
easier.
fix this?
Don't
wreck.
spin out. I just like, and that's the other thing. You know, you hear the rant, and I get it. You're mad. You just got
Yeah.
wrecked. You were leading the race. You got cycled back. Don't be an ass to the guy that's trying to help you. Like, this guy doesn't know. Like, he's just MFing this guy and calling him a stupid son of a bitch and every other name under the book. And then he gets out and he's like, me and the tow truck drivers are very capable. I'm like no. What is going on here? Like, you cannot honestly believe that we
Yeah.
should just ride around killing parade laps while we just try to figure out how to change your 4 tires on the raracetrack. Like, this is an actual
And
thought.
the end of this, by the way, you didn't finish the race because the damage was too
Yeah,
bad.
it had. If they could have brought you 12 tires out there, then your car was wrecked. Like,
Yes.
it did not matter. Like,
Yes.
I don't know. I thought like because he's like, oh, we've talked about this. I brought it up. He's trying to make intellectual points about it, and I'm like, this sounds like the dumbest I've ever heard of. Like, we're gonna do like Daytona. Could you imagine Daytona coming up? We just have a 47 car pileup, and we just gotta empty the whole infield and bring them all out there to change everybody's tires. Like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah,
Is he what an idiot?
I mean, he's getting pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, what if there is like 4 guys that spin out at one time? They don't no minimal contact. and
Who
they all
gets
got-
tires first? Like,
Yeah,
does
I
it
mean,
go by points? Or we go by qualifying order? Like,
yeah, that's a messy thing for sure.
It
So-
reminds me of Joey Logano's rant inside of his car. Reminds me when I get home with to-go food and I open my burger up and they put a tomato on
Tomato
there
on it.
Yeah.
when I said no tomato.
That might be the most accurate thing that you've ever said in my.
That's
ever since
what-
I've known
stupid
you.
sons of bitches.
Oh my
I
god!
mean, Logano.
You want to
is-
drive back to that restaurant and throw the tomato at their window? When
I
they're-
had a couple drivers I worked with earlier in my career, and I thought they were bipolar. I've since learned all drivers are
you?
bipolar.
How many
Are you?
drivers after this weekend? How many drivers do you think are like, hey, can we take these microphones out of here? Because
Yeah.
you got Priest on there. He's not being very friendly to Corey. He said some mean things. And Joey's just destroying the poor tow truck guy because he doesn't know what he's doing.
I want more microphones than
Oh,
cameras.
I want them all. I want
Yeah,
cameras
man.
everywhere.
I want them on the spotter stand too.
Nope.
He
Yeah,
was-
I don't think they need to be up there.
I mean, when I tell you he was dog cussing that
I
guy.
mean, for third, I'm like this. I couldn't even listen to it. I was trying to listen on the plane and I couldn't hear it. So then I went back and I thought it was over. Like I saw one clip that was like 10 seconds, and then there was another one that's like a minute long, and it's just nonstop.
What if that guy walks up to the car and what if the roles are reversed? What if that guy just walked up and was like, "You stupid"?
We can't assume that you listeners have heard Joey Logano ranting at. All you got to do is go on Twitter and find it. I'm telling you, it is epic.
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
What do you think he's gonna do to that guy? He's gonna do something for that guy.
No, he's
right?
not.
No,
No.
He's not gonna send him a Christmas card or
In
nothing.
his interview after that, when he comes out of the care center, he's like, he's praising the tow truck driver. He's like, they could do it. They could. Well, you couldn't. You were just MFing this poor guy because he didn't know if he wanted to push or
if
a tow.
I had
I
been that
mean-
guy and I had been towing his car back, I would have been swerving
Oh,
left or right. I'd have
do you
been
know
like,
how long it would've took
you want
me-
to call me a stupid son of a I'm gonna tell you what. Now you're gonna really call.
I
me
would have
one.
dropped it.
Tunnel
I
turn
would've-
bump.
Things I would love to see.
It would have took me 3 days to hook that thing up for one. Then I would have dropped it on the way
Dude.
back.
And I'd have had my left hand out the window, going, "You
know,
how's your ride back there,
What
buddy?"
about out of the tunnel turn? The guy just does his loop one time, keeps on going.
A couple circles.
Oh my gosh!
I'm lost.
Make it look like he's tubing on the lake. Just sling his ass
Slalom,
all
like
over
skiing.
the racetrack.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, that was amazing.
Hopefully that guy listens to the show.
Perfect visual. More on-track drama. Austin Dillon throws his helmet at Tyler Reddick, saying, "I thought I held my line."
This was
Here's
amazing.
another one
This was
idiot
amazing on
contender.
TV. Could you see it from where you were at?
I couldn't see him throw the helmet.
Oh, it was like, oh no. Then the helmet comes rolling down the track, and these helmets are like,
This guy,
expensive.
he hit the trifecta. Like, you talk about what an idiot.
well, I don't know
contenders.
about that.
He wrecked himself. He wrecked his helmet. And he missed his target.
Yeah,
like,
that's-
I mean, I know this guy's a pretty good athlete. This is one of the worst throws I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's athletic.
He was
for
in the
sure.
Little League World Series.
It was, I mean, well.
Was he really?
Maybe
No
that's what he
kidding.
was used to, 60-foot mounds, because that's, I mean, he's not used to it. He's
He's a
30-foot
46-foot
mound.
mound, yeah.
Because it looked like a first pitch that gets bounced
Yeah,
on the
well-
way in there. Like,
Well, obviously he wasn't a pitcher.
I think he was. But, you know, he didn't have a good day. How did he end up wrecked the 78? Like, they were back there. He was running like last
that
and
wasn't
spun
his
out.
fault.
I don't
The
know. That's what I'm
78
asking. I
Yeah,
don't know.
the 78 kind of wiggled.
Here's what. And listen, NASCAR doesn't like you on their surface. We know that since the
Oh, yeah.
incident a few years
So you're
ago.
talking about me. I'm like, what the fuck?
But no, that definitely don't want you on the surface. But they also don't like you throwing helmets. And so what they'll do this week is they'll send Austin a message and say, "We need you to send off that helmet and have it inspected to make sure you can wear it again." And then now you're obviously, most drivers have 2 to 3 helmets. Now you're on a backup helmet, and you got to worry about that audio and all that blah, 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 blah. So, listen, this was Austin Dillon wrecked himself, and he didn't know it. I wish he would have saw a replay before he did his interview.
He did. That's the problem.
Yeah, he
Well, but
commented
let's
on
talk
seeing-
about that a minute, too. That was a violent hit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when I tell
That-
you violent,
That looked like when we hit.
What are you
It-
trying to
it-
say? He's ready for the offseason.
It scared me. Like, I know when I saw that wreck, I was like, man, I really hope he's okay, because
Yeah,
that was a
I did
really,
too.
really violent hit. I mean, when you look at Kurt Busch's hit last year compared to this hit, this is light years ahead. It looks more violent. Clearly, it wasn't. But like, I don't. Maybe he needs to be rechecked out today to make sure he's okay.
Right.
If
He
he saw a replay and said
You
that,
get on the
similar-
app on your phone, just go to the scanner. You can tell because he's like, I'm all right. You know, you hear that a lot quicker. But
Seems
yeah,
like-
but that don't mean they're all right.
yeah.
oh, you were
There's
getting
a lot of
weren't you getting a
adrenaline.
beer?
Probably.
Yeah,
That's what you said.
But
I
you
did.
know,
I missed that wreck.
To your point, you know, that's what happened with Noah. Where was that at? Nashville, I think. Like, he came out and did an interview, and obviously you could tell in his interview.
Gateway?
Gateway was it Gateway?
Oh,
yeah. And you know, he was obviously not 100% in his interview, and then it comes out 2 weeks later that he's kind of voluntarily took himself out of the car because he was not feeling well. But yeah, that he definitely saw a replay. The only reason I know he saw a replay is because he referenced Dale Jr. comment about Dale saying that he chopped him or came down on him, and you know he trying to rebut it a little bit. But it's hard, and we always talk about surround yourself with the right people. You know.
Boy, no wonder I'm such a mess.
Yeah, you hear Richard come on there, and he's just same thing. He's just tearing up Reddick, and I'm like, obviously there's no love lost there between the two of them. But I don't know what if you look at like the angle of the entry of the corner, and for one thing, spotter side of things, we have we can tell them they're 3 wide, but we're not. Nobody from our side's clearing anybody into one there, so it's
No.
kind of on the drivers to know where these guys are at. And I think Austin I don't know if he didn't know that he was down there or didn't expect him to stay in it. I don't know, but he definitely came down on Tyler more so than
Brad
Tyler
was
ever
on the
came up.
outside as well, and honestly, when they showed the camera, Brad's not even in the shot a lot because he's so high on the track. So I definitely think Austin was a little lower than maybe he thought Brad was tighter on him or something, but I don't think it was anything other than a racing deal. I don't think Tyler went in there and said, "Oh, this is the 3 cars day. Here he goes."
Yeah.
Tyler's not like that. So
I think just going for the same spot, same time.
100%.
Denny Hamlin says both guys wrecked themselves. I didn't touch them after run-ins with Larson and Bowman. Oh, I have a lot to say here on
Freddie,
this one.
Well, I can say one thing.
Denny's great.
Denny is great at packing air. I agree with him on half of this. He didn't touch the 48.
He didn't touch him.
But listen, just because you didn't touch a guy doesn't mean that you got exactly what you wanted out of that situation. You're going in there. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that he wanted the 48 to spin, but he wanted to drive in there, pack as much air on the back of the 48 as he can, left rear quarter panel.
Why wouldn't he?
And free him up through the center of 3 so it kills all his momentum down the front stretch. Unfortunately, the 48 went around. Denny didn't make any contact there. Fast forward a couple of restarts later, Denny does exactly what the 8 did. The 21 and 8. He gives the 5 a big push, gets himself clear, drives into turn 1, and then it looks really similar to what we saw there last year. I think last year he gave Ross even less room than he gave the 5. I think that he intended on getting in there and making Kyle's life difficult, and was going to be willing to run him at a racetrack, and that's what he did. And when we get down to it, this is what we've talked about on here 1,000 times, and you can call me a homer because it's my boss or whatnot, but he's racing for the win, and that's a 10-point swing as far as playoffs go. Not only are you racing a win, you're racing another playoff or championship contender for a win. So now not only did you give yourself 5 points, you've cost that guy 5 points. I don't know how much that factors into it, but I don't care if it's your buddy, your brother, your mom, whoever it is. You put any race car driver in that position, they're going to go for it, and Denny did, and obviously – and you guys can jump in here. Kyle has every right in the world to be pissed off. Denny got in there, drove into the side of him, and ran him in the fence. But they're racing for the win. I don't know what you're expecting of the guy on the bottom.
I am spot off as far as you can be spot off, because another guy, when the roles were reversed in this situation, which last I can remember is Martinsville, when Alex Bowman bumped Denny up the racetrack and got the win. Denny did not handle it very well and thought very poorly of that decision at that time. I don't know if you remember that or not. Even it disrupted the burnout on the front stretch because he was so upset by it. I don't think they should have. I don't think he should have raced. There was a reason to race the 1 like that, but to give a guy no choice but to lift or hit the wall, to me, is not really racing. And I get it. He's going for a win, but look, you shouldn't. Hard racing shouldn't be you lift or you hit the wall. That's the position I'm putting you in. Now, if that guy has wrecked you 3 or 4 times this year, he had every right to run Ross like that. And I 1,000,000% agree with how he put the position he put Ross in. It worked out perfectly how he wanted it to as well. Ross had to lift or he was going to wreck, and Ross wrecked. So, but to run a guy that I don't think has had a run-in with you. You're racing for the win. You did everything you could. You got beside him. Race him to the tunnel turn. Don't give the guy a decision to lift like that. That's just my opinion of it. But I don't think I know if the roles were reversed, Denny would be – there would be – you'd have to swim out of Pocono.
If we were at Myrtle Beach on a go-kart track with nothing on the line but beating you, I would do the same thing to you Denny Hamlin did to him, because I want to win. And I think Kyle has every right to be mad. I think Denny has every right to be happy. When you look at – I'll back up to the Bowman thing. Remember on your report card when you were really young and they would have this box and it would say plays well with others? You would get an X on that one because Bowman and Denny don't like each other. They race each other like asshats.
Well, they've hit like 3 times this year already.
I mean, it's every freaking week for whatever. If they're around each other, something's going to go down. Mm-hmm. So that is what it is. Denny didn't do anything wrong there. He packed air. Alex got loose. But looking at this Kyle Larson thing, what are you people that – even with TJ sitting here, this guy put on a helmet that day. He went out there, put his life on the line. He's paid millions of dollars to go out there and race. FedEx is a sponsor. Coca-Cola is a sponsor. Great Clips is a sponsor. You want him to go out there and worry about hurting Kyle Larson's feelings by winning the race? I'm sorry. I'm from where I'm from. Denny Hamlin did what he could. He raced. There was a racing incident. You could tell the second that Denny got on him that he lifted to get off of him, but it was too late. And it put Kyle in a predicament. Here's where I have a major problem with this whole incident, and people are going to disagree. It's fine. Kyle Larson under yellow drove up to the front, and he run Denny Hamlin in the wall. I have a major problem with that. That is a personal foul. In any other sport, that's a personal foul. What happens during the game happens between the sidelines as part of the game. I feel like Denny and Kyle were 2 grown men going after the same spot. The outcome was the outcome. There's no call to be made there by NASCAR. But NASCAR, if you're going to allow people under yellow to come up and drive other people into the wall and not penalize them, I have a major problem there.
Yeah, and you saw it last year. William got suspended, right? And then they I forget something like he got a big penalty for this for running into the back of Denny and spinning him out at Charlotte, I think it was, right? I can't remember where the hell it was, but you know, this is. But the TJ's right about one thing. If you're gonna get, I still think that and to your point of just race him down to turn 2. I don't think that's going to be a race anymore. I think Kyle's going to get cleared. Denny took the only opportunity he had to win the race right there.
I don't know that your teammate's third.
Yeah, but
Denny's teammate's
If
third.
you don't get up, your doors are blown off.
yeah, like if the momentum's with the top, he's going to push the 5 by and try to get the 5 himself. I think, or split. So if you don't have momentum off of 2, and we saw it with the 8, they make contact. The 8 loses all his momentum, and he's a dead duck down the backstretch. So that I think was Denny. And then I haven't talked to Denny obviously, but that's his best and maybe only shot to win the race. To your point though, this is inevitably going to come back. Kyle cannot just keep letting this happen. Don't compare this to Kansas because it's not the same. Denny, at Kansas, I think Kyle got in the fence with Denny up his ass, and then they made more contact after that. But that was not the same as this. But in Kyle's mind, this is 2 races now that Denny's ran him very hard and cost him wins. You have to do something about this, or it's going to keep happening to you. So inevitably, when this does come back to him and Kyle does something in return, or anybody really that costs Denny a win, he has to react the way he expects everybody else to react. He's telling it's hard racing for the win. I don't know. I didn't do nothing wrong. I didn't wreck these guys. I didn't touch them. Well, that's not how they see it. You definitely made contact with the 5. You didn't make contact with the 48. But when that time comes, you better remember this and react in a similar way that you expect to be.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When it does come back to him, he does not.
Well, that's the thing. I don't remember. I feel like the Martinsville deal, I'd have to go back and look at it, was probably a little more egregious than what we saw yesterday, only for the fact that you can run each other over there a lot easier. But, this was not. And I don't. Yeah, I mean, he did ruin Kyle's day.
Well, let me ask you this: did he ruin Chase Elliott's day at Martinsville one time? Big time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then he said he was getting hit when there's not another car within a car length of him. But
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when it comes inevitably, and to that point, speaking to Kyle, you cannot continue to get pushed around. If you're not. People will continue to take advantage of you. You have to. And Kyle races hard. He's not one that doesn't lay over for. He puts you in bad spots. But you're losing these dog fights, and we continue on this path. You need to correct it.
I don't know. All these people at home that are, booing Denny, mad at Denny. I don't know how, because if I put my helmet on that day, and look, I was kind of surprised the run that Denny got into 1. He was able to turn in under him and get he literally at one point had his bumper ahead of Kyle, and I was like, wow, I'm surprised in this particular car with this aero situation.
Same thing like Josh.
And it looked to me like similar. You probably have the SMT data to back it up. He pushed him into 1 so far that Kyle kind of missed the corner, and that's what allowed Denny. Kyle kind of has. You see him kind of have to back his entry up after he gets.
You're not at
off
full.
of him.
You're not at full speed yet.
So that helps.
So
Yeah.
it's easier
Yeah.
to turn to the bottom
Yeah.
and make a corner out of it than it is when you go in there.
It was just impressive to watch. But look, 50th Cup Series win, 600th for Toyota. Holy cow, they haven't been here that long, guys. And you just look at this thing like this is a huge win. And you're at the racetrack where Denny dominated as a rookie back in 2006. His first 2 wins in the Cup Series were at Pocono when we used to go there twice a year. Rookies didn't win at Pocono back then. Pocono was a hard freaking racetrack. It still is now.
It's still hard, yeah.
But until they repaved this racetrack, Denny Hamlin dominated Pocono.
Yeah, he is the all-time winner at Pocono now. That was his 7th. Should have been 8. He got disqualified for a piece of tape last year. So it's a place he's great at, but.
Denny's always right, is what Kyle Larson said.
And he said,
That
and all the
interview,
buddies know it.
On for that interview, though.
Kim Kuhn and Kyle Petty were the stars of the broadcast because, and I'm going to tell you why, Kim Kuhn, shout out to her for doing a phenomenal job pushing Kyle, getting Kyle to talk.
She
because
kept pushing him, too.
We've seen Kyle Larson win and get out and be not that excited. Like right here, you've got a mad Kyle Larson. He said the S word on TV.
And she knows the relationship that they have, and she was willing to
She
put it out
did
there.
her freaking job. So often in the garage and in the media, especially these broadcasts, people are scared to say what they really think because they're going to see each other at the airport and they're going to see each other out to dinner next Thursday night when they all get into town. Kyle Petty came on TV. Whether you agree with his opinion or not, I literally don't care. Kyle Petty came on TV and he gave you his honest opinion on Denny Hamlin. And we need that. Like, we miss the Charles Barkleys of the world. Charles Barkley, whether you like him or not, he gets on TV and he tells you exactly what Charles Barkley thinks. And we don't have that. Kyle Petty was the closest thing we've had to that in a long time. So shout out to Kimmy Coon and Kyle Petty yesterday for being all-stars MVPs of the broadcast.
What was Kyle Petty's take? I missed that.
What the Kyle Petty got to do with this?
He didn't agree with.
Good play.
He said Denny got out and played. He said he made himself the victim, and Kyle called him out on it and said, "You're absolutely wrong," basically, and you went in there and initiated the contact.
But Denny's always right. Kyle said it.
But Denny's
come back.
Larson said it.
That,
Yeah,
if,
Larson
if the
said
tables
that.
are turned, it doesn't always work out how he wants it.
Oh, I thought you meant Kyle. That's what
I
Kyle
thought
Petty
Larson
said.
said. Larson said Danny's always right, and
Yeah.
all the buddies know it, or something like that.
I think that what was funny was a lot of his buddies were on the plane when he landed and gave him like the champagne spray.
One thing that I did, you talked about what you didn't like him going up there and running into him. One thing I didn't like about this was fast forward to the next restart, and we've already seen penalties for this year. Cliff Daniels gets on there and tells Kyle, like, you better handle this right now. Or, this if you're going to handle this is your opportunity. Well, you can't say that. Now you've kind of taken the knife out of your driver's hand.
So that's another question I have. So even Kyle called it out and said, obviously I have to race him more aggressive. I've never had to apologize for him. Denny's had to apologize multiple times. But he said it. I can't outwardly say how I'll be racing him in the future because NASCAR will obviously call that.
You like if you're Cliff Daniels and you tell him you better handle this on this restart, and Kyle goes into turn one and wrecks Denny, well, now you probably just got your team a penalty because you
can't retaliate.
You can't
Right.
talk about it. I mean, you can retaliate.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it. Don't admit it. So and we saw that a couple years ago. Like if the driver wants to retaliate, he's going to do it. Don't talk him into it because we saw that with, I think it was Byron at Watkins Glen when, Byron's, he was a young kid at the time. I think he might have been rookie or second year, and Chad's his crew chief. And Chad, I think it was Kyle did something to him, or they got together off of turn one, and they're encouraging him, go up there and get him, go. And he goes up there kind of half-assed trying to get him, and Kyle locks the brakes up and knocks the nose off the 24. And it's like he would never have done that, and he was half-assed doing it because you're talking him into it. Like if these guys are going to retaliate, let them retaliate. Cliff was kind of stoking the fire of you should hear what they're saying about you on the 11 radio. If you're going to get him right now. Listen, just let it go. If he's going to like Bubba, I always know like if Bubba's going to retaliate or not because he'll never. If he's going to retaliate, he's not saying a word about it. Like he's going to be quiet, and then something's going to happen. But don't. There's no need to stoke the fire. Let these guys handle it themselves.
Do you penalize, if both of you guys are president of NASCAR this week, do you penalize Kyle Larson for running Denny Hamlin into the wall under yellow on purpose?
I think you have to. I think to stay consistent, you have to.
I don't think they will because of a lot of reasons.
I don't think they will either. But I think to deter it in the future. What's to stop? If TJ at RFK is leading or running second, and Denny Hamlin's leading the last race, what's to prevent Buescher from going up there and running into Denny Hamlin and knocking a fender in to help? I'm not saying that's likely to happen, but if you don't set precedents for this, what's to stop these things from happening?
I hated it.
Yeah, I don't. That's such a tough call right there because nothing.
It's not tough. What's tough about it?
Well, nothing came about from it, but like.
But he ran him
could
the
have.
wall.
It could have. I mean, he could have flattened a tire, left front, right front, something. It could have flattened something like that, and that's where that would have got messy. So
Speaking of messy, let's move on to this next topic. NASCAR waits to throw the caution after Ryan Preece spins with the field coming to take the white flag. Preece then confronted LaJoie after the race. Spot on, spot off, Freddie.
I'm so on the fence with this one because I talked to Ryan this morning. He confronted Corey because Corey obviously was the one reason, in Ryan's opinion, that he got turned around back there.
Oh, it was.
He said, I didn't see it. He said they were racing for 20 seconds. He said it was really dumb on Corey's part.
Corey chased him up there. And
Corey's probably really pissed off because he made a giant mistake. He was leading the race, caught a caution, cycles off pit road, going to be mid-pack, going to have a good day for them. Unfortunately, not being accustomed to leading a race, he drives by the pace car on entry, gets a one-lap penalty, luckily enough to get a lucky dog and get back in the race. So Corey's probably pissed off at that point, makes a mistake, runs Ryan over. Ryan spins. Okay, that's the end of that. This deal here, and we talked about it on here before. We talked about it with this place. This place is the hardest place to see stuff for our standpoint. And obviously, race control, I would assume, has video that they can rely on more so than us, because if you see a guy spin in turn
Trust
one,
me, it was on their TV.
yeah, spin in turn one, come to the bottom, or wherever these guys end up, we can't see them. If they're on the, you guys have been up there. If somebody spins off a turn two and we don't see the smoke, we can't see the car. You can't
100%.
see the car there. So I don't know when they see it, when the corner worker sees it. Ryan's running 22nd, so there's probably 10 or 12 cars behind him that got to go by. Now, if you see this initially, if you see a guy spinning with 10 or 12 cars coming, you need to throw the yellow flag instantly. We've talked about that before. It's a danger. You don't know where this guy's going to end up, what's going to happen. If you don't see it right away, and by the time you do see it, the whole field's already by him and he's sitting there, we have 2 miles to get back around there. Now,
Well, about a mile and a half, because you can't let them race by him.
you're true. So, you have a lot of time. We're coming down the front stretch when, we're off of 3 really when he's back there sitting there. We have all the way through 1, all the way to 2. Now, you could say common sense applies. Every time somebody's spun over there, they got flat tires, they've not driven away. So common sense could come in and go, all right, throw it, throw it here. Now you're opening up race manipulation. And
He got lapped, right?
I think he sat there.
He didn't get moving. Yeah.
Yeah,
till
so he
after.
sat there. So, I think the backlash from this always comes from who's leading the race. Because Denny Hamlin's leading, obviously not a fan favorite. People want to see the yellow flag come out before the white because they want another shot at seeing Denny lose. If Kevin Harvick's leading, or God forbid Chase Elliott's leading, and they throw the yellow for the 41 sitting there, the outrage is going to be, the fucking 41 was there, nobody's around him, it's just a car, it's fine, you could have took the white and then throw, So all this comes back to who's leading is where the fan base is at. My side of it is always just kind of like I try to put myself in their shoes of when they saw it, how fast did they see it, where's there a danger. Obviously, if you're looking at it, see it live, see him spinning, you need to throw the yellow before he even comes to a stop.
This is karma, is what this is, and I don't think Karma's a bitch. I think she's the queen. Look at Saturday's race, and I would love to know what NASCAR said on their radio when the bumper of Chandler Smith's car flew off and was sitting in the middle of the racetrack in the groove, coming to the checker flag, coming to the white flag, whatever flag it was. No caution is thrown for a bumper cover. What did NASCAR say?
The communication on the radio, I obviously not going to remember verbatim. We could go back and listen to it. But it was, there is a large piece of debris on the front stretch out of the groove up against the wall, which down the front stretch up against the wall just so happens to be
the primary groove.
The groove.
Yeah.
And then I seen Bob had a picture of it yesterday, and I talked to Bob a little bit, and he said that speaking with NASCAR, they were not gonna end the race based on that. And then the next day, that story changed a little bit to where they were not going to let him. They were going to let him race close to it and then throw the yellow.
Well, if you think Denny's always right, let me tell you something. NASCAR's always right. They'll convince you of that. But here we are, day Saturday. A bumper's laying in the middle of the racetrack in the groove, and they don't throw a caution. And then they end up getting a wreck, which brings out a caution. And then the next day, we have a spin. Denny is not at the white flag when he spun. He was in 3. They had 10 seconds to make a decision on whether or not they were going to throw the caution. They made the decision not to throw it. So now, as a person who's involved in the sport and a fan of the sport, I'm on the countdown of now when you're going to throw it, because you didn't throw it to reset to put us into another green-white checker. So now when are you going to throw it? Because you're going to have to throw it because Priest couldn't get his car moving, okay? Here's where I have 2 problems. Okay, Priest finally got his car started. It rolled a foot, and it cut back off. Well, duh. Like, he's been in a wreck, okay? But here's my problem is we have this amazing battle for the lead, race for the win, when's the car's going to fly. We're having to show a stalled race car on the racetrack instead of showing how exciting it is to be winning this race. They finally went to a 2-camera shot. But, like, I just hate that we've got coming out of a scrappy win, Denny's 50, a Toyota 600. Denny Hamlin goes out there, gets 5 playoff points. Like, all these things are out there that are going to be the narrative of this race, and instead it's fans jumping up and down, screaming, going, why didn't we throw a caution?
Yeah, and I laughed at Dale. Burton's trying to justify when or not to throw the yellow, and he's like, I know the crowd's mad, and Dale's like, well, that's not what they're mad about.
Yeah.
But, and like, we would be, say they throw the yellow, if we're all by it, Ryan's sitting there, Denny's off a 3, 100 yards from the start-finish line, they throw a yellow. and then we go on next 3 restarts and just destroy half the field, we would be on here today just tearing them apart about you threw a yellow for no reason with 100 yards left in the race. Like,
there was more than 100 yards.
I'm just saying. No, I know, but I'm saying, but if they throw that yellow as he's running down the front straightaway,
the biggest thing we want, and this is, I'm speaking for the fans, the biggest thing we want is consistency. And 2 days in a row, you had a damn good reason to throw a caution. You didn't throw it.
That's consistent.
I'm spot on for the end of the Cup race because Priest was able to roll still. His tires were able, but he was just trying to get it fired up. And by the time I actually thought he was going to get it fired up and take off, but he didn't, and we can't race by him when he's sitting there. So obviously he comes back through that. I looked before this. This is what I brought up, I don't know, a month or so ago, that this wreck happened because I think Corey was mad at him and frustrated and turned him on purpose. This is a 22nd place, 25th place. We have a wreck for 25th that people are just mad, ruining the race in the front for, like, this happened into 500, a wreck for 20th place because just drove through a guy because he's having a bad day now. I look at it like, I go back to look at that. Like, do you take a guy? Like, you just ruin. That's what really ruined the end of the race. Brian Priest knows how to start a race car. You know what I mean? And he tried to get it going, and like you saw him moving, and I'm like, oh, he's going to go. And then it shut back off. And it's not that he wants to sit there and go. I don't think Ryan Priest is that type of driver. I think he was going to try to get it going and go when he could. But obviously,
as a guy who's watched thousands of races in your career, were you waiting on them to you knew they were going to have to throw the yellow, so were you waiting on when do they throw it?
After I saw him, after about 15 seconds of him not getting going, because I know you got a lot of time at Pocono, and I think you give him time because if you throw the yellow and he takes off and then we get on to one of the next restart, like Freddie said, we're all like, oh, man, we threw a yellow for a guy that kept on rolling. We've all said that. We've all said we've thrown the yellow for them when we didn't need to. The guy didn't have any contact. He slid, was getting ready, trying to get it fired up, take off, but he couldn't get it going. I go back to how it started. We like that. Why did that have to happen right there? You know, and did that contact for 25th place, 22nd place really need to happen? But I thought they let it play out, and you let the race finish naturally as best you can.
11th. I guess I don't know where anybody finished because our See us at Bristol. It's going to be fun. I'm going to hang out for at least half the race.
I love Kevin. I've known